Going on? Welcome back to the Flex Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike T. Nelson. On this podcast, we talk about all things to increase your performance, add more muscle, improve body composition, do all of it within a flexible framework without destroying your health. Today on the podcast, we've got my good buddy, Aaron Straker, and we're talking all about the difference in... This is geared a little bit more towards bodybuilding. He's talking about his experience with being a natural bodybuilder and then going to enhanced bodybuilding. So what are some of the pros and the cons of this approach? What can you learn from his experience? He's very open about sharing his results, which I thought was really good. And I've known Aaron for a while, and I can say from what I've observed, very diligent about his nutrition and training. And I thought this was a really cool case study to see some of the before and after. Obviously, none of this is to be considered medical advice. It's for information and entertainment purposes only. But I wanted to have him on the podcast to, again, explain his thought process of doing this. At least in my Instagram feed, but maybe it's just my Instagram feed. It seems like there's a lot more talk now about performance-enhancing drugs, from gray area things like peptides to steroids, growth hormone, and everything else in between. And as you know from listening to this podcast, my bias is people should be very educated about these decisions that they're making. Also, if you are in the U.S., most of these drugs right now, unless you have a prescription, are still scheduled drugs by the federal government. So not only are there potentially criminal legalities associated with this, there's also legitimate medical concerns too. Everything from sourcing to what can happen to your hematocrit and everything else in between. So again, one of the goals I have of this podcast is to be educational, not necessarily to pass any judgment. I think people should have the right to do what they want with their own bodies. But hopefully this will be educational for you and you can pick up some things along the way. And huge thanks to Aaron for being so open and honest about this discussion here. Podcast sponsors are LMNT. If you enjoy electrolytes like I do, these are by far the most tasty ones that are also high in sodium. Most, I'd say, athletes probably don't get quite enough sodium. This is in stark contrast to the general population, who's probably getting too much sodium. But if you're eating mostly real food, I wish I would have gone to a little bit higher sodium in both those athletes and myself, especially if you're in warmer environments. And then also Tecton. I am drinking a Tecton right now. If you're looking to get into a state of ketosis, you can by using exogenous ketones. It takes about 15-20 minutes or so, and your ketone levels go up. The nice part about that is you don't necessarily have to do a ketogenic diet. Right now, I'm using this in the evening for a little bit more cognitive help, and I don't really want to consume any more caffeine or any stimulants because it's going to wreck my sleep. So check out Tecton. Full disclosure, I am a scientific advisor and ambassador to them. You can use the link below, put in the code Dr. Mike, and it'll save you some money. Look for a big announcement from them coming very soon. They're working on some new flavors. I was able to test them, and they are really good, especially when you consider most exogenous ketone esters taste really horrible. So check them out below. As soon as we have more information from them and everything is public knowledge, I will share it here. And also want to let you know, if you are interested in getting better at nutrition, especially on the recovery side, the Flex Diet Cert will open again for 1 week only, starting June 15th. Actually, June 16th, something like that. That Monday in June. That's coming up very soon, and we'll have all the more information on that. The next time it'll open after that won't be until probably fall, or maybe even later than that. So check that out. We'll have a link below. you can hop on to the newsletter. So I send out a daily newsletter with all the information. We'll have all the information for the Flex Diet shirt there. Big thanks to Aaron. Make sure to check out all of his stuff below. And as always, this is for educational purposes only. And I'd be super curious on your thoughts on what you think of this. Again, my goal here is to be educational and to provide different viewpoints and perspectives. Currently, I don't use any hormone replacement or peptides. Maybe I will in the future. I don't know. I'm basically trying to wait as long as humanly possible. And as I think I mentioned in the podcast, I'm scared to death of needles. Even getting myself just to do a quarterly or twice a year blood draw is a big event. So check out the podcast here with my buddy, Aaron Straker. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome back to the podcast. Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We were just remarking before we started recording that you're still enjoying your time in nice, warm, and beautiful Bali for a while.
Yeah, it's been coming up on like 3 years that we've been here. It's nice, right? It's a very nice environment, especially for the kind of online coaching, fitness first, healthy eating first lifestyle that I live. It's one of the best places that I've found for that, which is very nice.
I think, is it still true that there's a fair amount of, I guess for my lack of knowledge, fitnessy people who are not born in the country that kind of hang out there? Like I've heard there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people from Australia and it just seems like, I don't want to say all fitness influencers, but I've known multiple people who spend 6 months a year in Bali and they all seem to be in the fitness industry.
Yeah, like I said, there's a reason that I'm here, and there's no shortage of gyms. There's ample gyms around. The weather's generally pretty nice, even though we're just coming off of like a very brutal rain season. There's healthy, high quality foods like lean protein, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, like rice on every corner. It is so
Oh, that sounds
easy
amazing.
to eat really like healthy here. And now, as more people similar to like myself are spending more time here, now you get like the create your own meal sort of thing. I want 150 grams of a grilled chicken breast. I want 200 grams of white rice. I want this or this vegetable. Like it's very catered towards like your macros, meal plans, and that sort of thing. And then you just meet a lot of people who are doing the same things that you want to do. Like, don't get me wrong, you can still come here and like party and do all that stuff if you
Oh,
want.
I'm sure.
But there's a lot of like pro bodybuilders coming and like doing a large portion of their like preps here and stuff like that because it's a very conducive environment to do so.
That's awesome. And I heard Jackson has a new gym opening very soon. I heard March. Is that still correct?
Yep, March 22nd is when we should be open for our special access memberships. So that's been hope we were hoping it was a little bit earlier, but you just run into snags like you wouldn't imagine.
Oh, I can
And
only imagine.
with like like a project of this scale. And like the big one right now is like we're waiting on the government to install an electric grid upgrade because
Mm.
the gym requires too much of like too high of a power draw than the local infrastructure supports.
Oh,
So
got it.
that's been like the big one, and we've been waiting for like almost 2 months to
Oh,
get that.
wow.
So yeah, that's like we're in the final like week or so before that should be in, and then we can really get things moving along. But yeah, that was like a big, just didn't know that was going to happen when that wasn't built into the schedule. And then all of a sudden we're now pushed 2 months back because we can't turn everything on all at once.
Yeah, we were in Mexico recently and stayed with some friends who are building their own place and know people down there doing construction. And they were saying one of the big issues is just getting an electrician because a lot of it is all cement construction and stuff too. So it's different than the US. And I said, well, how does that work? Like, yeah, you just find a guy, and when you get an appointment, it's literally like he'll be there within these 9 days. It's like so different than anywhere else. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it's been very similar to that, which is in very many ways, like when you're similar to us, like very type A, trying to get things done, it becomes very frustrating. But at the same time, like we are in their culture, not the other way
Oh,
around. So
totally,
we have to be
100%.
respective of that. And it's like tomorrow doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow. Like tomorrow could be tomorrow, tomorrow could be like 6 days from now. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's not like they're trying to be mean or they're not trying to be not professional per se. It's just the way it goes. It's just like that's the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then the topic of today, we're talking about the difference in natural versus enhanced bodybuilding and what are some of the different effects. And I don't know if it's just my Instagram feed lately, which God knows it seems like every day is like a different day when you go on there. It appears to me, and again, this could be incredibly biased because I am in the fitness industry and train people. Within the last year, it seems like everyone and their brother is using some kind of drug or some kind of peptide. Or I don't know, maybe it's just the perception that maybe people are more open. Maybe it's the algorithm is just targeting me with all of this stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe your perception is different since you're in a similar industry, but you're in a different location. I don't know just what your general thoughts are about any maybe change in the culture or, yeah, just general thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been a change in the culture, and I definitely think there's been a change in the accessibility of it. Now, I think I agree, right? 100%. I think people are using performance enhancing drugs, let's call them steroids for simple nomenclature purposes, more openly. But I also think there's with some of the peptides, in my opinion, right, and by no means is this like law or fact, there's certain reasons that I just don't feel there's a good argument against not using. For example, like if you have like a chronic elbow tendonitis sort of thing and it bothers you and that sort of thing, like it's apart from cost, right, of course, but like
Sure.
running the BPC 157 with the TB 500, at this point it almost seems, I wouldn't say foolish or anything like that, but like it's hard to argue against its efficacy. And if you've been doing, and especially if like it prevents you from training, or God forbid you're the person who's like using the NSAIDs daily just to use it, like
Sure.
there's a means to an end on that. So I think it can be a bit of like a slippery slope and it becomes like that PETA. Have you ever seen that PETA ad that has like all the different animals up on the billboard and it's like, where do you draw the
No, I
line between
haven't.
food and pet? And it starts with like I don't know, like a chicken on one end, and it's like chicken, whatever, cow, horse, cat, dog. It's like where do you draw the line, right? And it is like that. It's a spectrum, and anyone would pick okay, this is the line, but it's completely subjective and
Oh,
relatively
totally.
ambiguous sort of thing. So I definitely think we are very much in the like murky waters there. But from my standpoint, I think like if it's like a recovery healing thing. I don't know, if you're just a general gym goer and you're like, hey, I don't want my knees to hurt. Like my knees hurt. I've been doing the mobility stuff. Like maybe it's a little bit of age-related things. Like I'm starting to get there a little bit. Like I can't do like 10 hard sets on leg day anymore of like knee bending. I can only really do about like five or they get like really sore. But I know if I'm running the BPC 157, like that goes away and I can do my 10
Hmm.
hard sets again without issue. So I think it is a little bit like ambiguous, but I do agree the openness of it is seemingly so much higher. Maybe people don't feel as much of a need to be secretive about it and from a cultural standpoint it's okay to be more open and transparent about it, but I definitely think more people are using probably than ever before. And I definitely think the like social media guru, not even call them gurus, like content creators around it and stuff contribute to that very largely.
Yeah, and obviously this is none of this is medical advice. This is for only entertainment. For God's sakes, be educated, talk to your physician. Also noteworthy, if you report illegal drugs you're using to your physician, they're not going to turn you into the cops. So just for God's sakes, don't lie to your doc. I know a lot of people who are doctors, and yeah, it's like I've even worked with clients in the was many years ago, one guy in particular, and we finally got him to do his blood work. And I'm looking at his blood work, and I had another guy look at it, and I'm like, holy shit. Like you are on something and you definitely need to talk to your doctor. And he's like, no, I don't want to tell my doctor about it at all. I'm like, bro, your doctor's not going to turn you into the cops. For God's sakes, please go get this looked at. So you kind of see
Yeah,
that other end of the spectrum too.
you do for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And ethically too, it everybody has their own internal line. Obviously, you've got if you're in a drug tested sport, that different set of ethics there. You've got
Yeah.
people who live like yourself in different countries that had different legality of it. You've got most people who are using steroids are not competing. They're not doing it in a sanctioned event where it is illegal, even if the federal government in the US says that it's illegal. And I think at the end of the day, it's everyone's personal choice to decide what it is they want to do and not do. My only two pet peeves are one, tell your physician what you're doing. Two, the old supplement ads of X, your professional bodybuilder doing the ad with creatine. Oh, look, I gained 10 pounds on creatine. I'm like, okay, bro, that's the only thing you're on. So my other pet peeve is for I understand you don't want to out yourself for doing a crime, but for God's sakes, don't outright lie about everything either.
Yeah, it's and that's a part of the reason why I've done a couple podcasts like this now, and I just I don't know. I've always I guess maybe not always, but as got into adulthood and that sort of thing and found my own way, I just have like a strong moral compass. I get Instagram messages about like being a sponsored athlete and stuff. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to push this
Yeah, it's like, what
poor
do I have to do
quality.
for that sponsorship? What does this
Yeah,
really involve?
yeah, and it's so like slimy, and especially now, like if you've been around for a while, like you can see it a mile away, or you
Oh
watch the
yeah,
people bounce from like company
one to
to
the next.
company and just like dumping on their followers like these lower quality products. It's blatantly obvious, and again, I'm not here to be the moral police, but I know I will police my own representation in that, and I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and so you started as a natural athlete for many years. Like for people, we'll link to your last podcast. Just give us some background on how long you've been doing this. And I know from watching you, and we've been able to hang out in person, like you're legit doing this. Like this is a massive portion of your life. You're not just someone who's like, yeah, I train once in a while. Like this is like the thing you do, which is awesome.
Yeah, I started training at 16 for football, and then it quickly became pretty evident I was much better at lifting weights than I was at playing football. And it's really just been like a hobby for the entirety of my life. We were talking about it on a recent podcast with Brian, and there was one summer, I think, between my junior and senior year in college that I didn't train. I was like, I'm just gonna like go for I was like living down like near Baltimore, and like I didn't really know the area, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go for like a run a couple times per week. And I got to the end of that summer and I was like, you look like shit, dude. You need to go back to the gym. And I was like, okay. So that was
That's
like
an
the
honest assessment.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I don't like how I look, and it's time to go back to the gym. This running thing isn't just gonna cut it for maintaining what I want. And yeah, I went through different phases of like powerlifting, competed in CrossFit for a while, and then found myself in just being like a hobbyist bodybuilder, right? Just living the lifestyle. One, it's great for business, right? I'm a full-time online
Sure.
coach primarily. It helps that I practice what I preach. I test a lot of the things on myself. I have a lot of my knowledge through lived experience, which is obviously very beneficial for practical dieting situations, stuff for clients. And honestly, it was never I never found myself in like circles where anyone that I don't want to say anyone that I respected, but the only people I knew in my like 20s and stuff that were like using PEDs were people that I thought made like really loose, sketchy decisions. And I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not I'm just like, yeah, it's probably not the best choice for me. I never had like a large draw. I was also fortunate throughout. I've spent so many years training and I had really good like mentors and stuff. Like I'm very proud of the natural physique that I was able to build and stuff and carry for many years. And then a large portion of it was as I got into like my early and mid 30s with coaching, a lot of my overwhelming majority of my clientele are still Americans. And I would say like 15 to like 20% of my male roster would come to me on TRT. So as I'm sure like it is the hormone replacement industry in the United States is like wildly varies in quality and
Oh, it's insane
regulation.
now.
Yeah. So some of the clinics that my clients with were so bad that I had to like learn a lot just to be able to like help them because I would
Yeah.
like some of them, and I can think of one client specifically, he'll go like 9 months without blood work and the
Oh,
clinic never
Jesus.
reaches out to follow up with blood work. And then there was one time I was like, you have to go get blood work. Like you cannot
Yeah.
just, you have to go. And his hemoglobin was up in the 18s. And I was like,
Oh, Jesus.
you need to call your clinic. Like, I cannot
Yeah.
stress this enough. Like, you need to call your clinic. So it does really vary. And I had to learn a lot, right? So I was learning a lot more, and then that took me down like different rabbit holes and stuff. And I've always been someone where I like to formulate my own opinions, right? And that's with a variety of things. Like I've lived in numerous different states, East Coast, West Coast, like multiple different countries. Like I like to formulate experiences for myself. So I reached this point in like 2022 where I was like, I think I'm going to go on like TRT, right? And I think I'm going to like wade into those waters, see how I respond. The thing that I told myself most is that I was going to get like a lot of this energy back, which for complete transparency did not happen whatsoever. So that was a big
Interesting.
letdown. Yeah. But I created this like really long plan. We were back in the States still as a big safety net. I like not donated sperm. How would you say it? I like got sperm frozen as like a safety net in case something
Yep.
bad happened. And I
Which
did
is
that
actually a
like,
very wise thing to do because if you talk to most, in my opinion, better hormone replacement docs, they will tell you, or at least they've told me, like in clients I've consulted with, you may go on TRT, you may be able to get off, you probably could. However, there is still a percentage of people who go on TRT, even just at a TRT dose, and can never go off for God knows whatever reason. So, and that could obviously impair fertility and everything else down the road too.
yeah. So I just wanted to have like my kind of safety net. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to explore these potentially risky avenues, but I'm going to make sure that I don't sabotage family with my fiance and that sort of thing. So we did that. And then I created this long-term plan with my coach. I said, hey, I want to do like this year-long, incredibly focused like physique effort where I'm treating every single day like I'm a professional, pretty much. I want to do like as I want to run a build as long as we need to get to a build until I like really start getting too fat. And then I want to diet down to like my best physique ever. I'll be about 30, I'll be 35 years old, like doing this. And I want to see after 20 years of training as a natural what I can do, what that looks like, what I can recover from, what I can handle. And then at the end of it, I'm going on TRT, right? So I laid that out and we had this like 11 or sorry, 13 month process for it. And it went like amazingly well. Like we really treated it like it was a professional, like I was a job. And I was,
And do you mind saying who your coach was for this?
oh yeah, Jackson Pios. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jackson's my
I
coach.
wanted just so he gets some publicity too.
Yeah. And it went wonderfully. I got up to about 215 at maybe like 16, 17% body fat. I'm 5 foot
That's
11.
still really good. I saw your pictures and I know that may be air quotes, maybe on the fatter side for you, but I would say
Hmm.
to most dudes, that's still pretty lean.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I dieted for 6 months to get down to, we ended it at about 191 pounds. And I was very lean there. There's no like DEXA scan and everything here, but the last diet I did in Utah, I got two DEXA scans towards the end of it, and one was at an 8.8, the other one was at an 8.1% body fat, and I was significantly leaner the second time around.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it
Just for
just,
reference
I,
to people, like if you're a dude and you're on single digits on a legit DEXA scan, despite what the internet and every gym bro will tell you, to me, that's extremely lean. That's not like you're going to step on stage lean, but to the most people walking around, that is very lean.
yeah, unless you are getting on stage, there's not
Yes.
really any reason to be leaner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that and it was pretty much like, and what I said was, I'm going to diet until I get a little bit miserable. Right. And it wasn't until like the very final week where I was like, I don't really care to get any leaner because what was really happening too is we had like a recovery protocol where we would like train, we'd go get in like the sauna or the hot bath. And anytime I came out of the sauna or the hot bath, it was like I was like too lean. It was like creepy. And I was like, yeah, I don't really care to be this lean anymore. Like the veins were like all coming up through like my chest and everything like that. When you're like super, super lean and then you get
Yeah.
in like the hot water in how it changes like the appearance a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm done here.
Do
It's
you
like
find you
this doesn't.
become
Oh
very
God.
temperature changes become a lot harder? Does that make sense? Both
What
hot
I
and
just
cold? Or it's not
not
harder to say because you're in a warm environment all the time?
it wasn't. I would like the gym that we were training at tended to run its AC like a little bit cooler, and I would be like
Okay.
freezing training. Like my
Yeah, yeah.
susceptibility to cold like really was really sensitive.
Yeah. That's what I find in
The,
competitors and people who get really lean. It's
yeah,
like they're just walking around miserable all day in like 4 layers of clothes in Minnesota.
yeah, yeah. I was very easily cold in like an AC environment sort of thing.
But continue on. I interrupted you.
Yeah, yep, no worries. So then at the end of that, I started my TRT, and originally the plan was just like TRT. I didn't really have any desires of competing or anything like that. So I started 150 milligrams per week, which is a legitimate, what would be prescribable TRT dose. I have numerous clients at that and much higher than that
And I
as
assume
well.
that's just testosterone, right? By
Yep, just
injection.
testosterone. Yep, yep, testosterone injection. And I ran that for 3 months. And then what had happened, and I wasn't really anticipating this, is I got miserable because I
Hmm.
hadn't set goals after that. That was like
Mm.
it. And then I found myself feeling and like I was going from like training super intensely and having these recovery protocols and doing cardio on my rest days and stuff to feeling just like why am I in the sauna for 15 minutes for 20 minutes right now? Like fighting the urge to get out. Like what's the purpose of this now? And why am I doing my cardio the next day? And I just didn't have any more goals. Like I never thought past the start TRT.
Mm.
Like I accomplished this big goal, my physique. I was super, super proud of it. And then on the back end of that, I just felt like really empty. And my fiance and I, we took a little trip up to the mountains for my birthday in early March, and we were just like sitting there thinking. And Jackson had made a comment one time. He said, "I think you would do well in competing." And he's like, "I'm
Mm.
not going to pester you about it. I'm going to bring it up once. I think you would do well, and I would suggest at least giving it a shot." And
My impression is that seems like something he would say in a non-pushy way. But he would,
yeah,
my impression is he would feel almost not really guilty, but like he's not doing his service as a coach if he didn't at least mention it to you.
yeah. And he put it. It was a very non-pushy. He said, "I'm not going to bring it up again.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what I think." And when I was younger, like when I first got into training and stuff, I had all the like muscle magazines and everything like that. And I remember thinking like, oh, it's gonna be so sick, like when I'm grown and I look like that and stuff. And I was thinking, and what I ultimately concluded is I think I would regret it when I was like in my 50s and stuff if I
Mm.
never at least competed once because I'd
Mm-hmm.
spent my entire adult life in late teens, like very adjacent to the bodybuilding world, but never actually in it. And I thought that I would regret it. So that's when I said, okay, I'll do one season. Right. And I really only have, for reference, I just turned 37. Fingers crossed, start a family next year. Like, I don't have much time left. And I don't want to be doing it when I have like young kids and all that stuff. I just don't want to be chasing my own like selfish sport goals and that sort of thing at that phase in my life. So I was like, I have to
Yeah.
do it now or it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Because it is
So,
very all encompassing. And if you have the opportunity to do it now where you have a little air quotes less responsibility, that's a more appropriate time than when you have a bunch of responsibility and you're trying to balance a bunch of things at the same time.
yep. So talked with my fiance and I said, okay, Mike, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it about 18 months. So I am around month like 13. There was a little bit of a setback. I had a hernia last year, which put threw a wrench in some things for a few months. But other than that, things have been mostly pretty good, pretty okay.
And you mentioned when you started TRT that your perception is you would feel better energy wise, but you didn't notice that. And as a side note, I've heard that from a few guys I've had as clients, usually after. I think there's sometimes this perception, at least on the male side, that, oh, You have low libido, you have low energy, you're not adding enough muscle. Like, just go on TRT and it'll solve all of your issues. And I can list off clients where it made a massive difference for them. And I can also list off clients where they're like, I don't know. And they've had blood work. We can show they're at like much higher levels. And you could argue maybe there's something more complex going on there. But I also think that it's not as much of a panacea a lot of times as what it's made out to be. But I don't want to say there's no effect either.
Yeah, I think and I think it's very much so when you don't have experience with something, it's very easy to formulate like opinions, but I don't want to say they're baseless, but they're not,
It's an opinion. It's not based on
it's an opinion,
experience.
right? Yeah, like, yeah. And I definitely thought it was going to be like a panacea. And in many ways it was, right? Like I started growing outrageously just from the
Really, that was my next
150.
question, actually.
Oh yeah. I ran only 150 milligrams from January 16th until April 1st. And I started at 191 pounds. By April 1st, I was over 215 and still
215?
very lean. Yeah.
Oh,
Fortunately, I had a very intelligent coach in Jackson and he knew what
oh,
would
totally.
happen. So when we started, he ramped my food up very quickly. And I was like and I have it all documented in my like check-in sheet and I can share this with you, but each week I was up like 3.5 pounds and just not getting fatter. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I probably went from like that 6.5 to like 7% body fat to like a nine, nine
No,
or
it's still
10.
nothing.
But so yeah, I wasn't like creepy shredded anymore, but for
Yeah.
all intents and purposes, as shredded as you would really care to be, unless you're on stage.
Yeah. How did training feel? Did it feel different? Obviously, I would imagine he's matching volume and training at the same time then, or was it more on the nutrition side?
It was the nutrition side of things. So like the
Hmm.
food really ramped up. One of the things that I immediately noticed is you can contract the muscle so much harder. And with that comes like really painful pumps, which I was not prepared for. Like I
Do you think
remember
that's also higher blood volumes too, most likely?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember like maybe it was like week 7 or 8-ish. And we were doing like leg extensions, and the pain after getting off the leg extension was like immense.
Hmm.
And this wasn't like I was like previously, I was always training my leg extensions to failure and stuff. And it just hurt so much worse now. And I think it was because of that, like the increased blood volume, but then like how I could just feel that I could contract them harder. And because it was still like new enough in my mind, I was like, 6 weeks ago, I was natural and I had a
Yeah.
20-year training history. Like things are different now. I could
Yeah.
feel it. So it was definitely it was a gift and a curse because like sometimes like the pumps would be too big. There'd be
Hmm.
especially like quads and forearms where like
Hmm.
it hurt so badly, like the pump into my wrist and stuff that I like would have to like take like extra minutes rest periods because it hurt so badly to like hold on to things. So those were two of the like initial things. The one that I wasn't prepared for that everyone says like, oh, when you're on testosterone, your recovery capacity is so much higher. You can just recover from more volume. I found the opposite to be true.
Interesting.
Because you're stronger, right? And you're
It just
exposing your body
the
in
stimulus is
your
so much higher.
CNS to higher loads. Yeah, I can't do 3 sets to failure on the leg press anymore because like the CNS load, because there's more load on the leg press. And
Right.
I don't know how it works, but like for example, let's say at the end of my diet, when I'm natural, I'm doing like 4 plates per side for like 3 hard sets of 10 to failure. Now it's like 6 plates per side. So you've increased load by approximately 50% in whatever you call it, three months or something like that. I don't think your like CNS adapts as quickly there, and
Hmm.
it would wreck me. And I had to toe this line. Whereas if I pushed myself too hard on like the leg press or a pendulum squat or something like that, I would get sick and I have to like sit down and I would get like really dizzy and stuff like that. So there was like this line where if I pushed my training too hard, training stopped because I was getting
Hmm.
like nauseous and dizzy and just had that like feeling of impending doom. So that was another one too, where I was like, I wouldn't say I'm recovering more. I have to reserve certain things a little bit because I'll literally get sick if I push myself too hard. And I never had that problem before.
Do you think that's an acute increase in blood pressure that's triggering that?
Potentially, but my
I don't
blood,
know. I'm curious.
I honestly don't know. But I was, again, and let me back up. I was very scared starting the PEDs. So I was like, I'm going to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. I got blood work done the night before I started, right? And I got blood work done at like 6 weeks. I started taking my blood pressure. I got a cuff. I was taking it every day. My blood
Nice.
pressure hasn't changed.
Oh, very interesting.
So I can't say definitively if it doesn't change it higher during training
Right,
because of the
right.
higher loads or
Yeah.
something like that. But in the
But a
morning,
baseline, it hasn't gone up.
my baseline, it's been the same. Yeah.
Do you think there's some direct CNS effect? I've heard this from other people. I haven't done any TRT. I'm actually incredibly afraid of needles. So at some point, maybe I'll get over that. But at the other point, I don't really have any need to. But, I think people should be able to be free to do whatever they do. I've done weird stuff and had circles burned in my arm and frog poison and combo stuck in it and done 5 glasses of ayahuasca in Costa Rica and other shit, which I would not recommend anybody do. But everyone has their own line of what they want to explore and what they don't want to explore, and it's up to them. But I've heard from other people, and there's, I'd say, vague literature on this. I haven't looked at it for a couple of years, that maybe not so much with testosterone, but maybe with other PEDs, that there is some effect on the nervous system. And I've heard this even from people just going on TRT, that pressure response aside, pumps aside, more people than not just report that, as weird as it sounds, like you're saying, muscle contraction feels easier. It feels like they can feel the muscle working better, like they have a better mind muscle connection. And I've just heard multiple people report that over the years, which I find very fascinating.
Yeah, it's like when you're like young, right? And you're getting into lifting and you want to like learn how to pose certain muscles. Like you want to learn how to like flare your lats or something like that. And you're trying, but like you don't have the experience. Maybe there's not enough muscle there to like actually flare and you can't do it. And like one day, like some random Tuesday afternoon, like you just like
Yeah,
figure it
you're like,
out
hey, look at
after you've been
this.
lifting for like 3 months or something like that. It's very much like that. There's like some connection there that was not there before. And you're like, I can feel that muscle working now harder. And I wish I had a better explanation for it, but to me, it felt very much like that first time, like, why can't I do this with my lat? And then like some
Yeah.
random Tuesday, like, holy shit, it happened. And like that skill is just there now. And same thing, like you can feel the muscle doing more of what you want it to do.
Yeah. The only other thing I've thought of, and again, I haven't seen any data on this either, is that if blood volumes and hematocrit are a little bit higher, you have a better pump and you have more pressure. Does that pressure then trigger more, basically, like mechanoreceptor activation? So your brain is better at mapping where those muscles are, and maybe it's just more of a peripheral nervous system effect, more from a pressure mechanics than any direct CNS effect. Again, I'm just completely spitballing and pulling stuff out of my ass. So
Yeah, again, like I have no idea, and I don't think anyone really knows, but those both seem like very plausible theories to me.
yeah. And then for reference, like what were your kind of macros at the highest point? Because I saw some of the ones you had posted, which I think people will find interesting.
The highest point of my build, or
No, just like on this first phase where you're around, like I think you said it was January through April. Like what did you kind of build up to in terms of like just a rough approximation?
yeah, I have it up right here. I can tell you
I know you
precisely.
have all the records, so
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And like, I think that's what makes me a pretty good, I hate to really call myself an athlete, but I just turn my brain off. Like, I have someone like when I trust Jackson and I don't, he's like, we're doing this. And I say, okay, cool. And I do it.
yeah,
I don't,
you're very cool.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. So at the end of March, calories were 3,700 to 3,800. Protein was at about 250, carbs 575, and fats were right about 50.
Interesting. So you still kept fats really low at that high of a caloric intake.
Yeah, and I think if I'm speculating here, aside from, so one thing is I run higher like lipids genetically. So typically run a little bit lower saturated fat diet in general just to do what I can from a dietary perspective there. training volumes were high, and I'm just not a foodie person.
You're the
I
food
don't,
is fuel kind of dude.
yeah, I think my job has really skewed some of my perspectives on food and stuff. And I made this deal with myself because I was 30 when I changed careers into coaching. And I was like, I knew I would have to take it very seriously to really make it the way that I wanted to. Because at a time, a lot of the friends and stuff that I knew that were like personal trainers were now like trying to get into like more stable roles, quote unquote, stable roles and that sort of thing. And I'm going the other way. I'm a senior software engineer and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go do this online coaching thing. So I said, like, I will sacrifice like my own desires for the food flexibility and different things. Like, this is part of my job now, and I'm going to treat it as such. And I think after just 6 years of doing that, you kind of like lose some of the connections to things and whether it truly is. I can't say if I truly don't care to eat the higher fat foods or that sort of thing, or if I've just told myself that so many times that for all intents and purposes, I no longer care. But regardless, like I'm just not a foodie person. Like if you were to say, Aaron, tomorrow you can never have whatever, like something that people really like chocolate cake or cookie anymore, I'd be like, don't care, easy, done. But yeah, fat stayed low, and I think that's just so that we could push carbohydrate so much higher. And yeah, now that obviously my sex hormones are being exogenously replaced, just the need for the sterol isn't as high.
Yeah. And so you're at the point where were you having like the staring competition with bowls of white rice? Because you have what, 575 grams, right?
Yeah, at that point, no, it was still I ate rice in various forms, like white rice, cream of rice, and then like rice, like the rice puffs cereal, or what you call rice bubbles cereal, or rice crisps. So that in post workout, intra workout, were each like well over half my day's carbohydrate was eaten in that
Oh,
like
nice.
4 hour period.
So it makes it palatable. I had a friend, I think it was Allie, who was telling me that I think for some of her male clients, she said to take and put whey protein with, I think it was Rice Krispies in a blender and then blend it and then pour that over your Rice Krispies.
Yeah, right now I'm in my final like 4 weeks of my build before I start prep, and my appetite's gone. I'm so sick of eating. Like each day I'm like, this is your job, Aaron. Like you have to eat this, but like I haven't been hungry in weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole for people who are always on the end of losing weight, they're like, "Oh my God, that'd be so amazing to eat all these calories." And to anyone who's done it, like the highest I've ever gotten on purpose was 4,500 for I think I only made it like 9 weeks. And that's of like whole food. That's not like I'm trying to snort Skittles and put Rice Krispies in the blender. I didn't quite get to that stage. I'm trying to eat
Mhm.
mostly whole foods, but white rice, and you're trying to make it somewhat palatable. And honestly, I just quit because I'm like, I'm just honestly not that motivated. Like I think I reached the point where I wasn't really seeing more benefits to it. And I was just running out of time. And it does get really old where you're just having a staring competition with your food going, oh, shit.
You're right. That is spot on. And I'm drinking like over a liter and a half of orange juice every day too.
Yeah.
And that's on top of my intra workout drink of carbs, which was like 60 grams of carbs also. And yeah, the one thing I will say with this like journey into PEDs is like it's individual mileage varies so much. And I'm at a point now where like I'm too lean to really start a prep, but my body is
Mm.
just fighting this last bit of weight gain. I feel like it's just dumping off in like heat and stuff. I'm sweaty all of the time. And like I get to the gym and I get like, I'm just like warming up a little bit and it's already like pooling off of my face. And like my breath rate's not up, but like my body's really just fighting it. And yeah, and it's been interesting because I haven't had that in the past, right? And obviously we know the marketed caloric partitioning benefits with the exogenous
Oh,
testosterone
totally.
and PEDs. Like it's undeniable, but it has been hard to actually believe if I didn't experience it myself, especially after coming off of like previous builds. Like the foods I'm eating, the same clean foods that I always have prior when I was natural. Like you're putting on probably more equal amounts of body fat as lean tissue, if not more amounts of body fat.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, even doing everything right, still doing your cardio, sleeping and stuff. And now it is a night and day difference.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do a lot of bodybuilding per se, but if I'm trying to, based on DEXAs and stuff I've had in the past, if I'm really trying to gain mass and trying to gain muscle and be functional, and I'm still doing my cardio and all that stuff, if I could gain 40% muscle and 60% fat, I'm pretty excited about that, which sounds like a horrible ratio, but if you extrapolate it out, like it's much faster to lose the fat than it is to gain the muscle. So I think what you
Yep.
said is spot on, where I know other people who have gone on PEDs, and that was like the two biggest things they said was the amount of volume they can do or the intensity that they can do much higher. Weight gain definitely went up. And the biggest thing they said was the partitioning effect of how much of that weight was lean tissue versus fat was substantially different. And these are people who had maybe, I don't know if they maxed out their genetic gains, but they had been training for multiple decades at that point before they went on.
Yeah, it was the exact same experience myself.
And so at some point, did you go beyond the 150 testosterone or did you stay on a TRT? Did you go to, I know the US phrase and everyone's like, oh, bro, I'm on TRT plus. I'm like, TRT plus? Like, what the hell's that? And I see some of their
Yeah.
blood work and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm on considerably more now, and that started in April of last year when I decided I would compete. So I had basically like April and May at the higher amounts of testosterone and a secondary compound, plus some growth hormone for which has been, in my honest opinion, probably my favorite because of what it's done for sleep. I am just a quick side note.
Yeah.
I'm just not a great sleeper. I never have been for as long as I can remember into like my early adult life. Just not a great sleeper. And overnight, just introducing a very small 2 units per night of growth hormone, I was like, what I call time traveling is like when you go to bed and then you wake up and it's morning time, which like I can remember happening like once or twice in my adult life. And I'm like, I'm time traveling like 4 out of 7 nights per week. This is insane. That was like a game changer for me. And it was because of I was just sleeping so good, which was quite nice, actually. So that, losing my train of thought here where I was going with this. Oh, and then I had the hernia. And then I got the operation like right away. So that really put me down for June, July, and like August. And then it wasn't till like mid-September that I was able to like get back to training in like a meaningful capacity. I lost a bunch of weight, obviously, when I recovering from the hernia, and then was back by like the end of September. I was like back to the dosages and stuff that I had been before. And then September through now has been my build or finishing my build.
Yeah, I would, maybe this study exists. I can't seem to find it. But I would love to see a study that compared the same amount of like legit growth hormone, but it would be only given in like 2 IUs in the morning or 2 IUs at night. And then I would love to see some way of measuring sleep quality between the two. And then look at chronically over time, what are body comp changes? My hypothesis, which again is not based on anything, it's just anecdotal reports like you've had and other people have reported that the GH would technically be the same amount. So whatever body recomp effect from the pure amount of the drug would be the same. But my hypothesis is that it would improve sleep radically. I still think there would be a big difference in body comp just between the two groups just because of the higher quality sleep.
Yeah, I cannot downplay the significance and the quality of sleep it has provided for me. Like, it's been a complete game changer. Like, I would almost like I wouldn't want to go to sleep at night a lot of times because I know I'm like, I'm gonna be like tossing and turning. And I've been through like the gamut of the sleep supplements and stuff like that over the years. And it was just like my mind would be going. That and then using like a higher dose of magnesium in the evening has also been like the other thing that's really
Yep.
helped me.
Do you use any type of magnesium? What kind of dosage do you typically use?
I usually just do like a glycinate. Here
Mm-hmm.
we're limited in like what we can really get access to, especially in like a timely manner.
Sure.
I'm using like a now foods like magnesium glycinate. And after hearing, I want to say it was Kurt Havens, but I'm not 100% talk about dosing it at higher doses, like 8 to 10 milligrams per kilogram. which is like I was at the time, I'm like right about 100 kilograms. I'm like, okay, that's really straightforward. Once because before I would take it like the 4 to 500 milligram, right, which is like pretty much what the general consensus would be for like a higher intake. I'm like, whoa, he's saying like almost effectively double that.
Double
So let
that,
me try.
yeah.
Yeah, let me try that, and it definitely did help. It helped just like the calming of the mind for me. I'm kind of that person, like I'll lay in bed and just like my mind is just thinking about all these stupid things that are
Yeah.
not helpful for us right now. And it really just like would like suppress that. And I would be able to just like not think about things and just be like ready to go to sleep.
Yeah, James Lavall's talked a lot about that. I had him on the podcast recently, and he was, when you ever had one of those like big nutrition tips you heard years ago and you did it for a while and it worked really well, and then you just stopped doing it and forgot to like do it with clients. And I still had clients using magnesium and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I would look at their dietary log for magnesium, and I was talking to him again, and he was saying that he starts at, I think, 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium is kind of where he would start at, or at least for athletes. And I went and looked back at like what I was doing with some other people, and I'm like, oh, that's where he's starting at. We could probably go above that. And I look at my notes, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this like 12 years ago when I heard him on read was something in his books, and somehow I just stopped doing it.
Uh,
Yeah, I've noticed it makes a big difference for most people. Not everyone, but I'd say most people, it's definitely worth trying.
yeah, the one little thing I'll add there is like you said, elemental magnesium. So
Yes.
that's not 500. If I remember correctly, magnesium glycinate is typically about 10% magnesium.
Yeah, 10 to 12-ish, somewhere around there. But 10%, I
So
tell people just assume 10% is a good back of the envelope calculation.
yeah, so if you're using magnesium glycinate and you want to get to 500 milligrams elemental magnesium, you need about, what's that, 5 grams? Am I making
Yep.
that right? Yeah, yeah, five
Yep.
grams. So it's a very easy thing to like, okay, I'm taking 500 milligrams. I don't notice any
Yeah.
different. Like, no, you're taking 50.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Then you mentioned the recovery protocol you were doing. Do you mind sharing that? It sounds like it was some sauna work. And was this after most training sessions, or what was the rationale behind it?
Yeah, so after training, we would eat post-workout immediately and then go sit in the sauna for like 20 minutes. And that was just for recovery aspects and a little bit of like downtime, that sort of thing too. Obviously, the you get the slight cardiovascular benefit, health and benefit, and that sort of thing too. So it's definitely a little bit of like, hey, we're doing some of these activities that are probably not the greatest for our health, as in the PEDs. We should probably put a higher emphasis on other ancillary or peripheral things that can be positive to our health, such as like repeated and frequent sauna use. And then on the non-lifting days, we'd have cardio in the mornings, some like mobility work and stuff. And then we would typically do the hot bath or hot tub on the non-lifting days.
Oh, interesting. And do you do any breath work in the sauna, or is it just chill out, down regulate after lifting?
Yeah, chill out, down regulate, but we would push it to where we use like a progressive overload approach with it, where
Yeah.
we started at like 15 minutes. And the saunas here, they're typically pretty hot, about like 85 degrees Celsius. Sometimes it would get up to like 90. So I think that's about like 190-ish
Yeah, yeah.
in Fahrenheit. So it would like at first, like 15 minutes was hard. I would get to like 10 and my body would start giving me that like it's time to get out
Yeah.
signal and then fighting that. And then every other week we would add another minute. And to a point I got up to like 24 minutes was like my longest. And those were miserable. So it
Yeah.
definitely it felt like you were doing cardio at the end of that. Yes, that's what we were doing there.
Yeah. I haven't played around with sauna too much. Here I have. Obviously, I have a lot of it in the Phys Flex cert, but yeah, it's to me, I'm always fascinated about how you can get some cardiovascular adaptation from it just because of your heart's working. There's a fair amount of preload. You get a fair amount of volumizing of blood, which happens in 1 to 2 weeks. And yeah, I just think there's something about training those hormetic stressors or the things that your body wants to hold constant, like temperature, pH, breathing, fuels, like the bigger human dynamic range you can have on both sides of those. I think we're going to figure out, and obviously there's a lot of good finish data on sauna and other things that, yeah, doing those things that right about where you feel uncomfortable, just like training, just like eating. It's probably going to have a fair amount of benefits. We just don't have nearly as much data yet.
Yeah. And I would say the I don't know, I'm not up to date on the latest research with like the infrared sauna and stuff like that. I've used them, but it's obviously the
Feels weird.
perceived, and it's just not, it's, I don't want to say it's not challenging because it can if you stay in there long enough. And it's
Hmm?
a stark contrast. You don't get the, at least in my
Feels
experience, you
very
don't,
different.
yeah, you don't get the like, your body's not giving you the like, get out right now, please. Like signals where like in the sauna, like I have to like take my mind away. I'm like counting the drips that come off my head or something like that as the clock's going because my body's like screaming like, get out please right now. And it feels like you're doing cardio, right? You have that, like you can feel your pulse rate like in your throat and
Hmm?
stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's how you get the cardiovascular benefit because it induces pretty much the same response physiologically that you get when you're like running or sprinting on the bike or something like that, but you're just sitting there, which is a little bit trippy.
Yeah. And mechanistically, there's potentially, in terms of endurance and cardiac aerobic adaptations, there's some different molecular signals that may be triggered by sauna that don't quite show up in aerobic training. And I've tried to find, again, this study that I can't find about doing aerobic training, getting to a pretty high level, and then adding sauna in an intelligent fashion to see, is it an additive effect? My gut feeling is it is, but I can't find that study. There's a couple other studies that have hinted at a little bit, but they've been very short and very acute on it also.
Interesting.
Very cool. Anything else you wanted to add, or anything takeaways that kind of the before and after that were surprising, or things you didn't think would happen?
Yeah, there are some that because I think I've painted it mostly in a positive light, but there has been a bit of negative. And the biggest thing I will say is the individual response is gigantic.
I know.
Unfortunately, you don't know what you're going to get until you get,
You have no
and I don't
idea.
want to say until you get your feet in the water, but
Yeah, yeah.
unless you get your feet in the water. I am very fortunate in the regard that hemoglobin doesn't budge, hematocrit doesn't budge.
Really interesting.
My lipid profile improved, I think, because of that improved
Really?
caloric partitioning effect. Yeah,
Sure.
I am someone who I just run like genetically higher lipids, right? Nothing like crazy, but I like one like LDL, I'll see like 120s, 125 sometimes. I found it's very sensitive to my diet too. If I have like a higher fat meal or a higher fat day in the days leading up to it, I might pull like a 140 or something like that. But then other times it would be like a 101. But and I have like over like 6 years of since I started getting my labs done. I also genetically will run like a high HbA1c and fasting
Hmm.
glucose, but my fasting insulin will oftentimes not even register on the bottom end. So my body definitely has some like quirks to things it wants, or the reasons it keeps things in places. I noticed my fasting glucose and HbA1c kind of had been going down up
Hmm.
until like most recent where food's like stupid high and I'm
Yeah.
drinking liters of orange juice and stuff per day. So those were some of the things. But then I've also like I've had clients young in shape running only like 300 milligrams of testosterone. And it's another guy than the one I mentioned earlier, but his again hemoglobin in the 18s, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is a problem. Like
Yeah.
this is a
You're going
problem
to,
for you.
for God's sakes, call your doctor now.
Yeah. So in that one was like really surprising for me. So I'm very fortunate from a genetic response. Like my blood pressure doesn't change. It wasn't until I added boldenone, which is like pretty notorious for being bad for blood pressure, that it start to come up like slightly. But I'm
Hmm.
talking like a 124 over like a 65 sort of
Oh,
thing.
yeah, that's not. Yeah.
Yeah. And but before it would be at like a 114 or a 109 over 58. And that's with no like ARBs or no ancillaries or anything like that. Just like staying hydrated, doing my cardio, that sort of thing. Like again, I'm fortunate in that response. But the individual miles vary largely. The other kind of definitely negative as males, right? We go through puberty where our hormones are like shifting and that sort of thing. And you might like I personally had around like 16, 17. I had a period where I'm very like typically very docile, mild mannered. I had probably like a 5, 6 month period where I was just like something would just easily things would just like set me off, and I would be like
Mm.
a hothead ready to fight people and stuff like that. But only a very small portion of my like adolescence as my hormones were. And now 20 years I've been testosterone's typically around here, estrogen's like typically around here, and you just ride off into the sunset. When you start playing with your hormones, you start seeing how you respond to things where like estrogen's higher or lower or
Mm.
those sorts of things. And you have to, you start to, you may, I don't want to speak in absolutes. I would find myself like, why am I feeling like this? Why do I feel like I'm a failure and I'm hopeless and I don't care if my business fails, or why do I feel like this? And you don't really understand it. You're like, oh, my estrogen is sky high. Like you bring that down and like all of a sudden you feel normal, like your ambition's back. You do care if your business like fails or not. And that has been like you have to learn things about yourself and there's more to manage. And you like literally last week I had a client who was telling me he's like depressed. And like the guy's got like a great life, great physique, a lot of these things. I'm having like all these like depressive symptoms. And I was like, okay, like I'm making note of that. And then we also he's using enclomiphene
Mm.
through a different provider, but he was due for blood work. I'm like, okay, send me your blood work. And his estrogen came back and it was like again sky high. And I was like, you're not
Oh,
depressed, your estrogen is too high. Like
yeah.
get the estrogen under control. And all but guarantee you will feel a lot better. And so there's just more to learn, unfortunately. And you have to learn things about yourself and you have to identify like triggers if something's too high, if something's too low. And that's been something new because, like I said, for 20 years, I've just ridden like this. I know how I respond in certain situations. I don't get angry. I don't get sad. My emotions are like very middle of the road. And now I'm experiencing more of like the highs and lows. And I don't like it, if I'm really honest. I feel like it was a superpower. Like if we talk emotions are like a
Yeah.
1 through a 10, like my sad is 4 and my elated is 6. So like I just
Yeah, yeah.
oscillate right in the middle. And
You're
now
like
I'm
an Irish setter.
experiencing,
They're always the
yeah,
same.
yeah. So now there's been a little bit more, and I'm like, I don't love that aspect of it, but that would be one of the other ones that I noticed for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like the side effects are definitely an unknown. And I've seen people on self-reported small doses with crazy labs. I've seen people on self-reported what I think is absolutely batshit out of their mind. Oh my God, this is going to be HDL in the single digits, and looking at their blood work going, how the hell does this look semi-normal? Like there's some things that changed a little bit, but it wasn't the train wreck I expected. And I feel like you mentioned on the mental side, that's a completely not really talked about a lot and extremely uncharted. And again, you've got a high amount of variability, but it's hard to figure out exactly what's causing what. Like we just don't have as much data. Like we know what an HDL should be. We know what an LDL should be. We know what your AST. Like we've got pretty good markers of these basic things. But I feel like when you get into the mental side or the emotional side, or even just warning people like these things may happen, I think that's just a really underappreciated, under-researched area entirely.
Yeah. And there's a gamut of things. Like I'm again, like I said, I was scared getting into it, and I would still say I have a healthy amount of fear. So there's like certain compounds that are known to like impact mental state, like the 19 Norse. I'm just not touching
Yeah,
them. I'm like, got
Tren.
it. Yeah, I don't think like Tran or the Deca NPP. I'm like, you're probably just not going to touch them
Yeah.
because the likelihood of having things go wrong is higher. So far, things have been relatively benign for me. I'm pretty happy with most things. So I don't feel the strong need to experiment in like all the crevices of the PED world. I'm like, what are the tried and true? What are the safe ones that most people agree on? Cool. I will operate in those pathways as needed.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you deal with just a huge amount of added risk, whether it's on the psychology side, whether even if your goal is bodybuilding, yes, you want to be stronger, but at some point you probably don't want a compound that powerlifters would use to add a lot of strength because especially if you're not using growth hormone and things like that, like you just run the risk of blowing your shit up faster and then you're
Yeah.
injured and then you're
Yep.
going backwards and yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your time. Really appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for all your time. I really appreciate it. Please tell everyone about the podcast, your website, if people want to work with you. I know you've got a bunch of stuff on social media. Give them all the info there.
Yeah, so I run a weekly podcast with my co-host Brian Borstein that is called Eat, Train, Prosper. You can find us on YouTube and all of the podcast outlets. Website is strakernutritionco.com. You can also easily find me on Instagram at Aaron_Straker. And if you are ever in Bali in the near future and wanted to swing by Bali's premier training facility for physique athletes, that is called Undefeated Gym.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I would highly encourage everyone to check out all your wonderful stuff there. And thank you so much for all your time today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Mike.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. A huge thanks to Aaron Straker for coming on the podcast and discussing his journey going from a natural to an enhanced athlete in the sport of bodybuilding. As always, this is not for medical use. This is for information and entertainment purposes only. Depending upon what country you live in, some of the drugs we discussed are still federally illegal. So make sure to take that into consideration. But wanted to have Aaron on here to discuss both the pros and the cons from someone who has done both. I'd be super curious on your thoughts on this podcast, so hit me up, let me know what you think. As always, our sponsors here, we've got LMNT for tasty electrolytes. And then if you like tasty ketones in the form of a ketone ester, check out my friends over at Tecton. They make a tasty ketone drink. They are working on some new flavors and some other great stuff coming out. As soon as that is public knowledge, I will let you know. Use the code Dr. Mike to save some information, or to save some money, not information, below. And like I said, once they have more info, I will announce it to everybody here. Full disclosure, I am a scientific advisor and an ambassador for them. Also, Flex Diet Cert is opening June 16th for only 1 week. If you want more information on that, hop onto the free daily newsletter. We'll have a link down below. We'll get you all of the information there. If you have any other questions, the best way to reach me is on the newsletter. Just hit reply. I do my best to reply to everyone via the newsletter there. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Make sure to check out all of Aaron's great stuff. I'll put links to everything from him down below. Again, big thanks to him for coming on the podcast and sharing his journey. Thank you so much for listening. If you can do us a favor, leave us a review or whatever stars you feel is appropriate. Like, subscribe, download, all that wonderful stuff that really helps us with organic distribution of the podcast. If there's someone you think may enjoy this episode, please share it with them. If you share anything online, please tag myself and Aaron so we can say thank you. And that is all. Really appreciate you listening. Stay tuned. We'll have another episode next week. See ya.
What do you suppose they call that? A novelty act?
I don't know, but it wasn't too bad.
Well, that's a novelty.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.